Hello again to everybody who've watched me before. This is another session Watch Me Work, and today we're going to be doing glitters, chunky glitters and glitters flakes. This is Paula's hand. Paula's is one of my regular clients. She usually pick her main color and then she let me do whatever I like on two design nails. But this time, however, Paula's let me choose color for her, and knowing me, of course, we have to go for the bright yellow. This is December 2020 when we done this set, and in Australia, December Christmas month is actually summer month, so we get quite heat up over here. So I thought, why not just do a bright yellow color to match up with our summer hot theme. Now I already removed the old set, prep her nails, and now we have applied already a layer of base. And as I mentioned before, the base layer is only around 80% of the nails, because if you get too close to the cuticle line, it will make your cuticle line look bulky later. So after the base, we'll then start applying the color. Usually we'll do 2 or 3 coats of color depending how pigment the colors is. This yellow I think is quite bright. We might get away with 2 coats or even 3 coats. So with all the nails that haven't got the design on, I will just go ahead and do them straight yellow. So you're just brushing on number 2, the base solution, making sure you do a very fine layer. Be mindful around the cuticle line, because the neater the work, the quicker the filing time will be later. I'm using a brush to sprinkle the powder on, because I think this powder is slightly wet. I think it's the Cosmo brand, but there will be more details in the description box after. So we just go through and applying our foundation color base on all non-design nails, and then we'll come back and do something different on the design nails. So we're brushing over the second coat of the color now. Paula usually don't have a lot of bright color, so I'm not sure whether she'll regret afterward letting me choose the color for her this time. But if she doesn't like it, sorry Paula. As mentioned before, we're going to have 2 design fingers, so we're applying the main color to 3 fingers only on one hand, and we'll do similar to the other hand as well. So I finished up 2 layers of the colors, and now I'm moving on to the design nail. Now this set is a bit of impulse decision, because I didn't have any pre-planned of what sort of design to follow. Therefore I was just winging it. Initially I had a different style in mind, so I started with a ombre of a natural beige color and a white tip. I have to mention that these colors that I'm putting on the design nails, they are glow in the dark colors, so they will be glowing later on. The yellow is just a neon color, so they won't glow. It's only the design color that will get highlighted in the dark. So that's a thumb again, so I do the tips in white first, and then I'll add the beige on the top. Afterward, once I complete the design, I realized that I didn't need to do this ombre set, but As you wing it, you just got to follow through what you were planning to do at the time and hope for the best. So here I am starting the second layer on the design finger. So I'm just brushing the number 2 base on first. It already had the ombre layer underneath. I started with the ombre white still because I want to get the tip nice and even in white. So ombre method to me would be best. It's using an old acrylic brush or an old makeup brush that's the brittles is hard enough to actually pick up the powder. Once I cover up the tips, then I'm going to work covering the cuticle area with this chunky round glitters. So because of the yellow foundation that we have, I saw this set of glitters that I have that's got the box combined in variations of colors already. So I choose this particular box that has kind of gold round shape and black. So it's technically just chunky glitters in round, different size, similar shape, and I just apply it with a tweezer and picking them up and putting them in where I want them to be. I want all the glitters to be concentrated on the cuticle area and going down toward the tips, but not too much over the tips because I still want the white tip to show through. So doing this way with the tweezer, I think it's give me the best control of where the placement I want the glitters to be. This is what called encapsulating method. So you put the glitters on first and then you will use a clear powder layers to encapsulate everything underneath there. However, when you're doing this encapsulating method on dipping nails, you have to make sure that there is always a moist or a wet foundation base, so the glitter or anything that you put on top of the nail will have something to grip on to stick. So when after a while and you find that your foundation layer has dried off, just go ahead and brush a second coat like what I did, and then after that keep applying the glitters all over the nails again. My apologies that the nails is not in very good focus. I have to try to figure out how to checking the focus on the recording, but hopefully you will see it clearer at the end of the set. So I'm just placing them randomly going downwards from the cuticle line. They get filled up a lot more at the cuticle line and then spread out as they approaching the tip end. That's what I wanted to achieve, but technically you can do any style that you want. You can go on an angle, you can go on a straight lines, up to what you want to achieve. Once you've got the placement that you're happy with, and if the foundation base is still wet, go ahead, use a clear powder and dip the nails into the clear powder to dry out your foundation base. When you work with crystal clear powder, to achieve the best translucent result, you have to work fairly quickly on the powder and while the powder was still slightly wet. So once I dip it in, I quickly come back to it with another brush layer of the foundation number 2 base, and then after that I will put it back into the clear second time and brush off any excess powder on top of the nails off straight away, and that will give the powder enough time to soak in the foundation liquid and it will become a lot clearer. If you leave any excess clear powder sitting on the nail too long, you might create dry patches on our clear layer, or it might turn out a little bit milky. It won't be as translucent clear like we wanted. So I go back for third layer of clear, just to make sure that we give it enough thickness, so when we file the nails down we won't touch the glitter base that we have underneath there. And that's why when doing encapsulating I don't tend to make the base layer very thick or not at all. Just go straight forward to the design without any base color underneath, so then you can do more clear coats on the top, because otherwise if you do base layer underneath and then you do the clear layer on the top, the nails can look really chunky and thick. So I'm moving on to my second thumb, so just basically repeat the whole process again on the design nail. We already had our ombre layer underneath, so we're just going back, brushing a little bit of white tip just to make the tips more solid. This thumb is done a little bit different than the other thumb, so I'm brushing the tips as similar to the other side, but I'm going to add the glitter flakes. Why they're called flakes? Because they are a lot finer and they are a lot translucent, so they kind of semi-see-through. They're best to create stone or opal effect, but this time I'm going to pick a little bit of orange or base tone and go over the beige area of the nails. And then after that I'm still going to add my round chunky glitters in the middle. So instead of having just a chunk of glitters going into the white top, this particular nails will have that beige line around the cuticle with a little bit of glitter flakes, and then the chunky round glitters going from the middle section going downwards to the tips. So whenever your solution base dried out, just dab it in a little bit more around the area that you want the glitter to be. So this is a slight variation of the design on the other thumb. And the other thumb we started from the cuticle line going straight down. This one we started from kind of middle section of the nails going straight down. Still the same theory, the same technique, just a little bit different in placement. Makes the set looks more interesting. To me, there's no right or wrong way to do design, as long as it comes together in the end. Especially when I'm doing one of these wing it sessions, I totally had no idea how it will turn out. I just have to do it and hopefully, finger crossed, it won't look so bad. But most importantly, you have to consult with your client beforehand, whether are they willing to accept an open style design. Some people have a precise image of how they want the design to look, and it's always better to follow your client's instructions or the description that they've given you, because they're the one that have to wear the nails, not you. So you make sure everything you do is consented by your client, and then you'll be okay. So once the initial placement of all the glitters are on, then just go ahead, dip them in the clear powder again. Once again, we're working with the clear powder when it's still wet. Apply a second foundation base and then dip it straight into the clear powder. And to keep it really clear, wipes off any excess powder immediately. You can repeat the clear process 2, 3, 4, 5 times, it depending how chunky the pieces that you're trying to encapsulate, and also how thickness you want to form on the nails, or whether it's give enough apex curved to make sure the nails stay long. Moving on to the ring finger, and once again repeated the same process. So after the ombre layer, which is the first layer, just brush the foundation, ombre around the tips area again, and use the chunky glitters this time. I return back to the initial design on the first thumb and put the chunky glitters going downwards from the cuticle area. There's a lot of different way to work with chunky glitters like the one that I'm doing. Using tweezers is just one of the method. You can even use a little spoon to scoop them all up and sprinkle all down. Or there is a fan brush that you can use. So it's basically what make you most comfortable with and what you think will help to achieve the design that you have in mind. So this particular time I use the tweezer because I want to be able to control specifically where the glitters go, and the tweezer works well in this case to help me achieve the most precise placement. Another point to watch out for when using loose glitters is just to remember to clean your brush on the foundation base every single time before you're putting it back into the bottle, so that your foundation bottle won't be contaminated with various glitter pieces floating in them. To some people, this might seem like a time-consuming technique, using the tweezers picking up pieces of glitters, but everybody's to their own, and there's no wrong or right in doing design. Once again, once you're happy with all the placement, then just go ahead, brush another coat of the foundation base, then dip it into your clear powder again, or sprinkle your clear powder over the nail. This clear powder I'm using is Nitro, and this is one of the best I find that's give the most translucent effect in terms of doing encapsulating. Once all fingers are completed, I'm just going to brush the foundation base over the colored nails and dip them into the clear coat. I sped up the speed because we've pretty much done all the important steps. So once we sealed everything with clear, then it's just going over with the activator or the sealer to harden all the powder, and then we just go to shape them and then file them down. When filing, I'm basically focusing on pulling the skin away from the powder layer and just shape them as I initially done. When applying the powder, I try not to go too much around the edge, so therefore I still be able to keep my original shape as close as possible, so that minimizes my time in filing and shaping them. But just make sure you always have to pull the skin away from your powder, because if not, that's where lifting happened. And I use the E-file with a fine round head to go over all the surfaces to smooth out the powder. So as always, we'll go quickly around the cuticle and then we'll go across the nails, both direction, up and down, and then sideways. With the color nails, you'll find that it will be thinner than the encapsulate nail, because I deliberately done 3 or 4 layers of the clear initially, so that when it comes down to this filing time, I have plenty of spray or layers on the top of the encapsulate pieces to file the nails down into the correct shape that is meant to be. While filing, if whenever you find there are last chunk of powder started to come off, that means there's not enough sealer or activator was put on before. Just stop filing on that nails, put a little bit more activator and sealer on, leave it to dry completely, and then come back and continue working on the nails afterward. After filing with the fine head, I always go back with my cuticle head. This particular head will help me to clean out my cuticle completely, as well as reshaping my cuticle line, give that cuticle line the nice rounded edge. And also, most importantly, it prevents lifting when you clean up your cuticle line properly. Always pay extra attention when you get close to your cuticle line because you don't want to cut your client. This particular fine cuticle line pieces I'm using is very smooth on the edge, so it won't cut skin. But the movement is just nice and smooth, no pressure required, because that's when your accident can happen and you might draw blood. At this point, it's just a slight buff on the surface of the nails, making sure they're all nice and smooth. With this particular design, there's nothing else to be done apart from asking the client to quickly wash their hands in water, then add on another layer of the activator. Then you just put on 2 layers of your dipping top. Encapsulating is one of my favorite methods to use with design on dipping nails. It lasts the longest. At the start, it might seem like it's a bit more time consuming to carry out the design, but you're able to finish it up fairly quickly because there's no more additional step to be taken after you seal in your design with that clear powder. After that final coat of activator or sealer, so we're starting to put in our top. Usually dipping top you will have to do 2 coats. The first one always a very quick one, and it doesn't have to cover every edges of the nails. Just mainly on the top surface, quick 1 or 2 brush, and then moved on to the next finger. Starting the next top layer, this is where you will go into more precise area like right around the cuticle edges. Applying the 2 top coats in this way will keep the nails in shape better and will help the nail dry out quicker. After this 2 top layer, then you just have to ask the client to stay still. I will put a timer on for about 6 to 7 minutes. So here are complete yellow New Year celebration set, and as mentioned before, the design nails are done in glow in the dark color. Thank you for watching another video with me. Once again, subscribe, like and share my channel. Happy New Year. I wish you all the best in 2021.